Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special, and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, the LSU Tigers, the Tulane Green Wave, and also the UNO Privateers. We got a great panel for you tonight. Legendary sportscaster Ro Brown is with us. Sports director over at Channel 4, WLAE-TV, Doug Mouton. Guys, thanks for coming down. You guys know each other forever. You work together.
30 years. Yeah. No, we didn't work together.
Right?
We did. I was Rose's little helper.
No.
I was Rose's little helper.
No, we worked together.
No, not
when
together.
you were an intern, a sports intern at Channel 6, you did more than most interns.
No, we did. We did a lot. And Ro taught me a lot. It was a fun time.
Was it really?
Oh, my God. Yes, very fun.
And he was
wild, ridiculous, and fun.
That is right.
Yeah, it was.
Look at you both now.
It wasn't work.
Yeah. Guys, we always like to start off letting folks know a little bit about what you're involved in. Ro, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you're involved in, please.
I work in sports information at the University of New Orleans, Southland Conference basketball champions, regular season and tournament, the only school in Louisiana basketball team with the NCAA tournament.
Yes, sir.
And I am sports director at WBOK Radio, 1230 a.m.
Before we go to you, Doug, Ro, talk about the UNO Privateers.
Like I said, defending champions and picked to finish 6th in the Southland Conference, which is fine. But this team is going to be better. Lost a lot of people, and especially backcourt people, experienced backcourt people. If they can replace those people, they'll be fine, and I think they will. It's a taller team. It's probably a more athletic team also than last year. So we expect pretty good things. Tough opening schedule, but that's
ambitious schedule.
It should be that way. It should be that way. Opening on Friday with St. John's at St. John's. You know, I teased Coach Schlesinger. I said, you're better off having the teams play, because if they ask the coaches to play, you're in trouble, because Chris Mullins is the head coach.
Yeah. You know, he get a few jumpers.
And his assistant is Mitch Richmond, 2 Hall of Famers. So you have a problem. Yeah. And then they go to Oakland. A lot of people don't realize Oakland is a school, no, not California, but in Michigan. A team that's a very good program, right at the cusp of getting into the top 25 in the preseason poll. And then they come back home, take a little rest, and they'll go play Memphis.
No break.
But it's the kind of thing you need to do.
When there's a break in the schedule.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you need to do.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. So
and it worked out well for them last year as well.
Exactly.
They were battle tested when it came down to tournament time.
And if you win one of these, later on down the road, you win one or two.
There goes that RPI.
You got it.
No doubt. Doug, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Channel 4, all the great programming you guys have from high school to, again, the standard 4th down on 4.
Well, we're in the heat of it right now. This past weekend, we're in Tuscaloosa. We did the LSU pregame show and the postgame show. It's been a wild football season. We went to London with the Saints and saw them turn their season around, which has been unbelievable. Yeah, every Friday night we do 4th Down Friday. Every Sunday we do 4th Down on 4. We have been doing the Tulane Coaches Show this season too. So the weekends have been wild, and every time LSU is on CBS, we'll do either a pregame or a postgame or both. It's been a bunch. It's been a whirlwind football season, and it's gotten a lot better than it started in the last month.
Right. You wanted a life in show business.
And you got it. Let's do something maybe a little unorthodox. We usually start with the Saints. Since you had the Tulane Coaches Show, and I watch that weekly, talk about Tulane, if you would, Doug, and Willie Fritz. A lot of Tulane fans seem to be a little bit impatient now with again, the little bit of a stretch here.
Yeah.
I would be patient if I was the Tulane fan right now.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, 3-6, it's rough. Look, they said at the beginning of the year our goal is to get to a bowl game. They're 3-6. It is highly unlikely they get to a bowl game. They still have Houston coming and SMU. Those are two good teams. It's unlikely they're going to run the table and get to a bowl, so they're probably not going to go. I see great improvement in the program. I see it heading in the right direction, although we haven't seen it yet in wins and losses. And obviously you're going to get a unhappy fan base when that happens.
I think if they had Jonathan Banks last year, they would have won 6.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
You know, I really do.
No.
If they had him at quarterback last year, perhaps they would have won 6. But I think he's going to do a good job, Willie Fritz, eventually. But I think he has to get his players, and that doesn't have to be 5-star people. It's not going to be 5-star people.
Right.
But I think Curtis Johnson left some talented people there, especially on defense.
Yes.
I mean, last 3 or 4 years, Tulane's been really good defensively.
No doubt.
Okay?
Unfortunately, the offensive players defected in a lot of cases.
He lost some.
Yeah, exactly. But defensively, there were some good people, and they were there last year. And like I said, if Banks was there last year, they may have won 6. But I think, like you said, patience is the word you got to use.
And I'll say this, though. Right now, it is a critical time for them. This recruiting class, he's now had 2 years here. He should have gotten to know enough high school coaches, and I think he has. But let's see how many. Look, you see what Tim Rebowe has done at Nichols with a whole team of Louisiana kids. He is on the cusp of getting into the NCAA tournament at Nichols with a lot of local kids. And the kids are there. Let's see how many from South Louisiana Willie Fritz can bring in. Because, if you don't have a good class this year and you're looking at 5 or 6 years down the road, people are going to run out of patience by then. This class is big for him.
But with the Nichols thing, I've always said that there's no reason for any school that's FCS in Louisiana to not be good.
Yeah.
Because Louisiana is full of FCS players. I mean, people
And a lot of them.
who may be a little too short, or their fingers aren't as long, or something as LSU wants them, or whatever.
Don't have the measurement.
And some of them develop into becoming Aeneas Williams or Gary Barber,
Right.
Or something like that.
Wow, you just threw those two out right off the bat. Doesn't get any better than those two, right?
Well, guys, both of you guys cover high school football. Well, obviously, you're doing it on radio on 99 AM for the original. And, of course, you've got the 4th Down Friday. How is the class this year? How are we looking with the guys that are coming out? Is it as good as we've seen in the past?
No, I don't think it's a great year. But
It's not a bad year, though.
Great years, but we don't ever have bad years.
No, we don't ever have
We
bad
don't. We
years. Right,
really don't.
right.
We don't ever have bad years. I mean, it's not one of those where you've got a great year. But when I think about prep football, get it out of the way. Yeah, we got too many state champions, but I don't want to talk about that. It gets better and better. You did a really good story on participation.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
That was a really good story.
That was really important, I think.
I thought so, too.
I was really important because a lot of people think that because of what we have with the concussion situation, which is real, and I understand why people have their misgivings.
Sure.
If I had a son, I wouldn't want him to play football.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wouldn't. But here in this metro area and in Louisiana, numbers aren't down.
Numbers are not.
They're back up because I think they were down after Katrina.
Well, and I'll say this, in Orleans Parish especially, every coach will tell you they're up. The Orleans Parish Public Schools, and it's one of the golden eras of Orleans Parish Public School football right now. You've got a bunch of really good, really talented, really well-coached teams, a bunch of them with chances to make runs in the state playoffs. And the class this year, you're talking about from a recruiting standpoint, point. What I find funny about it is your classic South Louisiana class. If you look at the top 20, like 17 of them are DBs and wide receivers and running backs. Right. It's our classic. We've got speed, and DBs are through the roof, which everybody needs in college football. Not a lot of big kids, not a lot of quality big. That's just not what we do. But boy, the football in Louisiana can run.
Go to Ohio and Michigan.
You go find the big kids.
That's exactly right.
Somewhere in Texas.
Texas as well.
Yeah.
Guys, Saints now 6-2. They 6 in a row, 30-10 over the Bucks. Ro, when in training camp, watching this team, did you anticipate this, and then maybe fast forward to the first 2 games where they got blown out? What we're seeing now out of this team, the maturation process so quickly within this season?
I anticipated the first 2 games. That was my anticipation. Okay. What happened the first 2 games. I didn't really think much of this team, in training camp. I really didn't think they were going to be very much, but they are. They're playing very well. They won 6 in a row, and they weathered injuries, and they've had people step in and play. Some of them we don't even know who they are. It seems in some cases, and they've come in and they've stepped in, and people injured at key places. Teron Armstead, left tackle, Dalvin on the outside, and still they've managed to, especially defensively, turn things around. And one of the reasons why I think is I've always said that the Saints have never had any linebackers since the Dome Patrol. To me, I mean,
I agree.
They've never had any linebackers, and when I say no linebackers, you rarely saw them making linebacker plays, plugging a hole or running somebody down before they got to the sideline, or even dropping back in coverage and doing something. And these people are doing that.
Right. You're talking about it as a group, as individually.
As a group.
You had Vilma, you had other guys that came in.
I mean, as a group, they weren't really a linebacker team.
And maybe 2 years of Vilma were maybe the exception.
Yeah.
But that was
even the
short.
Super Bowl year was kind of, they were all right. They were, but this group is making plays, and they're all right when you think about it. I mean, Teo's doing fine. Craig Robinson, a lot of tackles last year, played well. Klein has come in. And has played well. Before he was injured, Anzalone looked like he was running people down and making plays, and so, they've done some good things.
Right. Doug?
It's funny. I talk to my favorite group that I talk to every year. I talk to the crew of Carrollton, right? And they meet, and just a bunch of normal guys want to talk football, and they happen to ride in a Mardi Gras parade together. And I've gone to them like the week before the regular season, like 4 years in a row. And I went to that. And I said, look, I think they're going to be better than last year. And the reason I said I thought they'd be better than last year because I thought the secondary would be better. And to me, everything they've done this year starts in that secondary. And then 2 weeks into the season, I felt like the dumbest person that there could ever be. Because I said, look, I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but I think they'll be in the hunt. I think they're as good as a lot of the medium NFL teams, and they've turned out to be better. But to me, the difference this year has been how they played in the secondary. Marshawn Lattimore has been spectacular. Ken Crawley, he might be.
I think he is. Best corner they've ever had.
Ken Crawley, who I thought was the best cornerback in training camp, and then because Lattimore was out, wound up getting benched or put by, and then he's been terrific. Marcus Williams, the rookie second-round pick, played 100% of the Saints snaps this past week. He's been solid. Kenny Vaccaro's had a good year because they don't need him to play in coverage because they're not desperate. So, it starts with Lattimore taking away half the field, and you can do other things. But the improvements in the secondary have been, and then Alex Okafor, I think, has been a really pleasant surprise. So, and you started with Cam Jordan, who I think is an all-pro guy, and I did not think they would be this good, and that would be a lie. And anyone who did, I think, is probably lying or drinking too much Kool-Aid. But I thought they would be better. I thought they could be a 10-6 team, probably 9-7. But I think this team now, you look at the NFC, and there's nobody in the NFC that I'm positive would beat them.
You're 6-2 at the halfway point.
You're 6-2 and in the hunt.
And you're in the hunt. And I got to say, because Drew Brees. Okay, I mean, I just like to mention to people that it's 23 or 28, and they go, he didn't have that good a day.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we are with him now. You know,
and
I mean,
if you look at the NFC teams, the contenders, you're talking about LA with Jared Goff and Philadelphia with Carson Wentz, who are both playing terrific. Sure. But given the choice, if you go into the playoffs, would you rather, right now, for 1 year, not future, for 1 year, would you rather one of those two or Drew Brees?
I just think we're taking this all for granted. As far as he's concerned.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I mean, I think the day that he's gone, I think people will realize,
Well, a lot of people were thinking it might be at the end of this season. Now
could be.
Things look like maybe they've changed a bit, and maybe he'll be here for a few more years. And the same thing can be said for Sean Payton. Guys, let's talk a little bit about the offense because it's evolved a bit.
Yeah.
You know, it was always shock and awe. Now it's kind of pound and pass. Mm-hmm. You got it. You're utilizing the running backs obviously a little bit more than what you utilized them in the passing game in the past. More of a horizontal than a more vertical type offense, and Payton has adjusted to the type of players that he has on this field, but also I think he trusts the defense now, so he can run the football, and that's going to help Drew Brees in terms of longevity. No longer does he have to put this team on his back to win. You now have the ability to be able to run the football effectively.
Halfway point, Mark Ingram has, I think, over 500 yards rushing. It could be another 1,000-yard season for him. He could be, and if he continues that, he could end up being the Saints' all-time leading rusher. He's not that far away when you think about it, to tell you the truth, from catch and deuce. But, Ingram has been obviously, very important, and the rookie, Kamara. When they drafted him, I said, man, that's really good, because I liked him in college at Tennessee. I thought he was really good, okay, and I thought I didn't think Darren Sproles when I saw him in college, but, when I thought about it, he could be that guy. And that's why Sean Payton had a man crush on him, because he could do so many things with him.
Well, I think people underestimated his ability to run inside, but at Tennessee, he ran inside.
I know, I thought he did it inside and outside, and he had hands. He could catch the ball. And, that offensive line also, like I said, I mean, Armstead out, and Streif missed some time, and, you got these people, it's just plugging people in and they're playing.
Although, right now, to me, Josh Laribas is their 8th guy, and if they have to get below 8, then I think there's going to be a major drop. I thought they had 8 who could play, and they've needed all 8. Right. Now it looks like Warford was upgraded this week, so he may play again. So now you may not have to get beyond 8. I tell you what I like about on the offensive side more than anything. C.J. Spiller 2 years ago I thought was the worst free agent signing in Saints history. And the reason was because they signed a guy with no idea how to use him and no concept for what to do with him. And to me, that was the Saints at their rock bottom. So this year, they go out and get Ted Ginn, who leads the world in drop passes over the last decade. I swear. And you go to training camp, and at training camp every day, he had one right here that he dropped. Literally every day, he had a bad drop. But the Saints had a plan for Ted Ginn, basically giving him extended handoffs, and when he catches one downfield, it's like a bonus. But the Saints had a plan for Ted Ginn, and when he gets the ball on those little bubble screens or the ways they have gotten him the ball, they had a plan, and it has been brilliant. And in Ted Ginn's 11 years or 12 years, whatever it is, no one's ever had a plan for Ted Ginn like this. And Ted Ginn has been a difference maker and always could have been. You just can't ask him to do what a normal wide receiver does. He can't do that.
Run the pattern.
He's going to catch it.
Just look at that pass. The pass that he didn't catch, that first touch that last week. He should have caught that. I mean, a normal receiver catches that.
But in getting the ball in space, letting him make moves, he is special with the ball, and the Saints have used it in a big way.
Give a lot of credit to Curtis Johnson.
I do. I think that.
Look at Brandon Coleman. Go back to Devery Henderson.
Exactly. I was going to say another number 19 also. Couldn't catch when he got there.
Plus, I mean, again, and I agree with both you guys. You look at it. I talked about this weeks ago, where he's running the Brandon Cook routes, but he's getting yards after catch.
Well, he's only running the Brandon Cook's routes that are within the 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Yes, but it's extended handoffs, and it's been brilliant.
That's all you need to do.
And between him and the 2 running backs, and that's all they've needed. They haven't needed to stretch the field like they have before. They haven't needed the tight end in the way they have before. They've found a way to make it with the 2 running backs and working Ted Ginn.
C.J. Spiller, worst free agent signing, Brad Mustard.
Well, Brad Russell got hurt too.
Jarvis Bird?
Yeah.
We can throw a lot of them out there.
Yeah, we can do a lot
We
of
can definitely
those.
throw a lot.
No, you're right. That could be a nice competition.
No doubt. But, guys, when you also at the wide receiver position, Willie Snead hadn't been able to get on the field.
Right.
And part of that obviously was Brandon Coleman, what he's been able to do, and Ted Ginn.
Sure. Well, Willie Snead is not going to be your blocking guy.
Right.
So if the Saints are going to run the ball more, Brandon Coleman plays much better into this offense than last year's offense. Brandon Coleman's a guy who can block for you. Look, Willie Snead was a guy who did everything right, right? He was a guy, wasn't fast, wasn't big, caught everything in sight, did everything right.
Worked hard.
Beginning this offseason, he has not done everything right. And the guy who doesn't do when that's your thing, to do everything right, and you're now not.
And you're talking about everything.
Yes.
The stuff off the field.
Off the field, on the field. And this offense is more running the ball. He has less of a place. Alvin Kamara is getting a lot more of the balls that Willie Snead might have. And so losing Willie Snead has not hurt this offense at all.
Interesting, we've done all this talk about receivers, and we haven't mentioned Michael Thomas.
Right.
Who every team is trying to take out of the game immediately.
Yes.
Right.
And he's still been able to get catches.
He's still your number one. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's almost like not talking about Cam Jordan. Like Mike Thomas is your gift.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, can I go back to Drew Brees for a moment? Because he's also, again, kind of, he's not forcing the ball. He's kind of letting the game come to him. He's only got four interceptions for the, and I'm not sure what is it in terms of touchdowns, but it's double-figure touchdowns.
13.
Yeah, something like 13 or 14.
13,
Rotate it first. He's really played well, and again, not tried to do too much because of the way the offense has kind of been schemed now.
Right. He has played to the offense, so to speak. A lot of people say, well, he just does a lot of things to set records, and yeah, I mean the numbers do pile up, but I mean I don't think you could say that about him this year at all.
Oh, no way.
No.
I mean I've never felt that way, but I don't think you can say that about him at all this year. He has played to what has been needed. He's played to what's around him and played with what's around him.
I still wait for the game. I think there's going to be a game in the second half of the season where people start stacking the box and saying, we dare you. No one's done 50. That. And he's going to throw for 5 touchdowns. I think that game's come. But Drew Brees is Drew Brees. Like, even if they never do that all year, the threat of them doing that is still so imminent and perpetual that they have to play you back, and Mark Ingram's going to keep running.
I just think he's a quarterback of historic proportions.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we really think about that yet.
And when I talked to the crew of Carrollton, that's the one thing I said is, they said, is it time to cut the cord on Drew Brees? And I say, there will never be that time. Yeah. You ride that pony until it's done, because I am fairly confident that the three of us will never see a quarterback this good again in a Saints uniform. Okay. I mean, maybe if we're lucky. I mean, he's a generational quarterback that you may. So as long as he's doing what he's doing now, you ride it for as long as you can.
Well, that leads to my next question, because right now, do you start to look to develop a quarterback, or he's playing so well, do you say, you know what, we're going to ride this thing until he really can't play anymore, and then go into the draft, use maybe a high pick to maybe get a quarterback to come in to be the heir apparent?
Yeah, I know everybody says you need to, think in the future and that sort of thing, and look at what Belichick does at the other positions. He hasn't done it at quarterback, obviously. But, I'm with you. I think you just ride it until
Look, there was word they would have taken Pat Mahomes last year, maybe if Lattimore weren't there or whatever. I wouldn't yet. I would take it when I needed it, because there's no guarantee you're going to spend a first-round pick and that quarterback's going to be great. Sure. I mean, there's more who aren't great than who are great. And look, I mean, the NFL, the way the salary cap is, the way the roster structure is, you need every guy you can get. I wouldn't waste any high pick until I'm sure Drew Brees is
And you only got that guy for 4 years.
Really. Yeah, and you've only got him for 4 years.
Unless he's a first-round pick, he's 5.
Yeah, and he's sitting on the bench for 2 years. Right. I don't see where that does you any good.
Right. Yeah. Guys, have you seen a change in Peyton? And Doug, I'll take you on first, because he seems like the old Peyton. He seems involved. He seems animated on the sidelines. Again, at the end of the game on Sundays, going and shaking hands, slapping 5 with the defense. We're doing a victory formation. Animated when obviously the Mike Evans situation happened. He seems like the Peyton of old.
Yeah, maybe. Although he did that a lot last year. I'm not sure. I think he's just got better players. Yeah. Look, they had a great draft. They got 5 guys
really,
from
2
this
great
draft.
Drafts.
Well, 5 guys from this draft this year playing major roles and getting major positive grades. Trey Hendrickson's a guy we don't talk about much who is filled, and he's playing spot snaps, but has been terrific. Ryan Ramczyk, Pro Football Focus, called him the most impressive rookie offensive lineman, and then Kamara, and they have done
Lattimore.
Marcus Williams and Lattimore, right? He's got better players. He's got a better team put together. Clearly, they had a better offseason focus. I think it's the personnel moves, and he's winning. And when Peyton gets the swagger, which he hasn't really had the last couple of years, when Peyton gets the swagger, this team plays a different way. And certainly he's had more of the swagger, but I think that comes with the wins. I don't see a great difference in him. Right. I see a difference in the team because they're more talented and playing better.
Do you see a difference?
I agree with Doug. I mean, I think it's because they got better people.
Right.
I mean, it's players. I mean, I realize that the National Football League likes to sell you on owners. You know, they like the owners to be the faces of the league and all that. I mean, it's the only professional sports where we know the owners, to tell you the truth. But it's all about players. You got to have players. Right. And there's no doubt about it, this team is more talented than last year's team or the year before.
Do you give the credit to Jeff Ireland for coming in and helping out? Or
whoever. Well, somebody's picking him.
And the Saints are doing that. The Saints are giving him the credit, so I would guess he's the credit. But this draft, you look at every pick, because even Anzalone would be number 6, and he looked like I thought he was the best of the draft class in training camp. Now, granted, we didn't see Lattimore, and there's not much Kamara can do at that point. But yeah,
but Anzalone was playing.
And Al Quadine, who's the last pick, had a great preseason.
Well, they think enough on him. He's on the active roster.
Yeah.
You know,
he's been off and on from the active to inactive.
Right, but they haven't put him on the practice squad, is what I mean.
Oh no, he's been on the active roster. And whether he's active on game day, he's been inactive.
Right.
But you've hit on every one of them. Looks like they might be, and those first 5, I mean, they absolutely look like picks. So if it's Ireland and that's who they say it is, then it's him.
If you're getting 5 people out of a draft and you do that every year.
If you had 5 guys you wanted to sign to a second contract, that would be an amazing.
That'd be awesome.
That's like early '70s Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
No, that's Although back then it was 17.
I was about to say. Yeah, exactly. No doubt. Guys, 2009, as we reflect back on that championship year, by this time the fan base was going bananas.
Yeah.
It was Saints fever. Fan base maybe a little tempered right now, maybe so far.
No. Sunday was the loudest, but the 0-2 did that.
Yeah. Right.
The 0-2 had people saying, "Wait, is this for?" And people still had. Right. I agree with Roe. I think this week the fans really. Now look, they were 8-0 at this point, and I'll say this too. I was the North Shore reporter then when the Saints were 5-0 and beat the Giants. I sent our guy Dominic Massa, who does all our big planning. I sent him an email and said, Dominic, I think the Saints are going to the Super Bowl this year. I want to be part of the crew that goes to the Super Bowl. And he wrote me back and said, give me a break. Right? I wrote him back when they were 8-0 and said, Dominic, I think the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. And I listed why I should be part of the crew going to the Super Bowl. Grew up in New Orleans, did sports for years, like all the reasons. Because my argument was, how many people on our staff would know who Sidney Bartholomew is and Dalton Hilliard? Right? So like, how many? So there weren't many. I said, me and Hoss and maybe Capo at that time, and there weren't many. And then at week 9, I wrote him again. Same letter, and then he wrote me back and said, okay, if we go, you'll go, now leave me alone. And I was like, all right, I'm in.
And you were there.
And I don't think people have bought into that level. No. I haven't quite bought it.
I haven't either.
I think this team's in the hunt.
Okay.
That year, I'm telling you, at 5-0, I had never felt it like then. They had already caught fire by 5-0, and they were beating people in a way that you didn't beat people. This Saints team isn't quite there until this week. Yeah. Tampa was the most decisive win.
Well, this is a big week this week. I mean, this to me is the litmus test. You go into Buffalo, you beat Buffalo in maybe some inclement weather.
Yeah.
Then you come back to Washington home. Then you got to go out.
And
to
then
Los
the Rams.
Angeles.
I think these 3 are the.
Then you go into the last quarter of the season where it's all division games.
Right.
So no gimme there because you kind of throw the records out with the division games. What's the ceiling?
The ceiling? See, I'm not with Super Bowl yet, you know, like when you may have felt after 8 in 2009. I'm not there. I won't sit here and tell you that I think that they're going to the Super Bowl. I am a definitely in the hunt guy. Okay? They're in the playoffs to me, at least.
Yeah.
I think they're already in the playoffs.
I think they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, me too. I don't think there's any.
They're already in the playoffs.
Unless they just
But then once you
collapse.
get
Right.
and so once you get in there, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But when you talk about that 2009 season, even when they lost that first game to the Cowboys after 13, I still felt like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Nobody's
okay,
beating them.
all right, big deal.
Yeah.
Right. And even when they lost the next two, I still felt,
Right.
No, I'm with you.
And I won't say that I have that kind of feeling about this team.
Oh, no, you can't.
But
Look,
yeah.
you look at it, there's 6 teams in the NFC right now with a shot, and that's not counting Atlanta, who I think still might make a run. I think Dallas is a talented team with a shot that hasn't quite shown it yet. Philadelphia is an enormously talented team. Carson Wentz has been great. I don't know if he can keep it up. I want to see more of them. The Rams have been an unbelievable defense, and Jared Goff has done a nice job. I think the Saints go in there. Seattle is still extremely talented. I don't believe Minnesota without a quarterback unless Teddy Bridgewater can find magic. But there's a lot of teams that would. The Saints also wouldn't surprise me. Of those 5 that I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them moved forward. And if Dallas became that team, I wouldn't be surprised. If it was Philadelphia, if it was the Saints, I think all of them are in the hunt. But I'm with Roe. I'm not ready. The ceiling is the Super Bowl because if all goes right and you have Drew Brees. Yes. But I'm not ready to say. I mean, look, we actually are applying for credentials for Minnesota.
Right.
We'll be ready, but I'm not quite ready to. I want to see them play the Rams first.
Right. However, I don't think they're in over their heads against any of these people
No doubt.
in the NFC.
No. Great. But that said, what do you think happens in Buffalo this weekend?
I think the Saints win. I think they will win in Buffalo. I think they're playing that well.
The one thing they have done well is confuse quarterbacks, right? And I think Tyrod Taylor. They can get to him. You saw last Thursday night, he did not look great. And I think they can do enough things to get to him. And I think the Saints win in Buffalo, and I think they win by a couple of touchdowns.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Doug Mouton, Sports Director at WLAE-TV. Ro Brown, Sports Director at WBOK Radio, and also the SID at UNO. We'll be right back after these messages.
BURKHART's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. BURKHART has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. BURKHART's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services BURKHART's provides, visit acpromise.com. BURKHART's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Ro Brown, assistant SID at the University of New Orleans.
That's right.
Yeah, he made that very
Kelvin
clear.
Quayle is the SID.
Don't want to diss the SID.
We don't want to diss him.
And a very good one.
And the sports director at WBOK and Doug Mouton, sports director at WLAE-TV. Guys, Alabama 24, LSU 10. Tigers again. I didn't think they had a chance to win. I didn't think that they were going to get blown out. But I didn't buy into the 24-point spread. I didn't buy into the 21-point spread. But I walked away from the game like a lot of Tiger fans did, thinking, maybe the first time I'll take that moral victory. Guys?
I thought it was going to be a beatdown. I did. I'm glad it wasn't, because I didn't want it to be a beatdown. However, you heard, ever since Saturday night, you heard a lot of, we don't believe in moral victories. Yes, they do.
Oh, they definitely do.
Yes, they do.
They
look at this as a moral victory, okay? They do. I mean, from Ed Orgeron on down. I don't care what they say, you know. I mean, I've had one, you know, very staunch LSU fan tell me, at least we scored a real touchdown on them, you know. And so, but that's about where Alabama is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and that's about where this conference is now. You know, that a team like LSU pleased with a moral victory.
Yeah,
in 24-10. I mean, they're pleased with a moral victory, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, Leslie Spoon and I were there. We did the pregame show and the postgame show, and you know, Leslie played Division I basketball, and Leslie is fierce in a comical way at work because she'll argue everything, and she's actually doing the morning show now. She's out of sports, one of my favorite sports people I've ever worked with, but Leslie was actually upset walking out of talking to the players. She said, I don't like how they are way too happy about the way they lost. Mm-hmm. Like, Leslie was mad about it. Because if Leslie went one-on-one with Michael Jordan, she'd be angry if she didn't win. You know what I mean? Because that's her personality. Yeah. And she didn't like the fact that they were too... I tell you what, from a moral victory standpoint, the best thing about it was LSU's playing 3 true freshmen on the offensive line, 2 starting, and they were not dominated up front. So, look, going forward, there were a lot of positive signs. You wish they weren't feeling a moral victory. Rose said it. It is part of where we sit right now. And look, Ed Orgeron said it a bunch about recruiting. Alabama's got 10 kids from Louisiana on their roster. The kid who scores the first touchdown is Irv Smith from Brother Martin, the son of former Saints first-round draft pick Irv Smith. And the kid who makes the sack to end the game is Dylan Moses, who's a kid who grew up in Baton Rouge. Right. And
was offered by LSU in 8th grade.
And accepted in 8th grade.
Right.
So, and they weren't the difference in the game. But the fact is, Alabama's been able to come into Baton Rouge and New Orleans and get terrific players. And Ed Orgeron knows that has to stop or at least decrease a lot. And yes, LSU is within the ballpark of Alabama. Moral victory, look, I mean, it's Ed Orgeron's first year. And if you said at the beginning they had a shot at a 10-win year, you take that. Right. And they've got a shot at a 10-win year. Right. So,
was it because of the expectation was that Alabama was so much better, that this team was a team in transition with a lot of young players, and they played them so tough? When you look at them, outgained them. Obviously, again, defensively, the difference in the game obviously was Hurts.
Yeah.
If you look at it from a defensive standpoint, they played right with Alabama, and I think a lot of people expected the Tigers to get blown out or not even be in the game, and so maybe because they played so well with this young team, that maybe that's where the moral victory comes from.
I think part of it is that, maybe Alabama isn't as good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, that's part of it. But when I say not as good, I mean that's relative. Sure. Okay, I mean
they got a tough schedule coming up.
We're going to find out.
I mean, maybe they aren't as good, and also they've had a lot of injuries. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people who are playing are people who
but they're still supposed to be 5-star guys. They're supposed to be 3 deep, 5-star.
And that's why they haven't lost.
Right.
Yet. Okay.
No,
and that's why they haven't lost yet. Okay, but it's not as good a team playing those second and third stringers as it is playing those first stringers. Okay, like this time last year they lost Eddie Jackson, safety. Remember, who's doing things in Chicago now with the Bears. Okay, they had pretty good people, but maybe they beat Clemson. Maybe Eddie Jackson covers, that wide receiver in the final game. That no one else could cover. And so, I mean, Alabama may be in that situation, but it's a good situation to be in.
Alabama, look, heading into LSU, they hadn't played anybody. Their best win was an 8-point win over Texas A&M. And after LSU, they've got Mississippi State, who's good. Then they've got Auburn, who's better. Then they've got Georgia potentially in the SEC Championship, who's obviously at the top. And then they've got 2 more college football playoff games in theory after that. So we're going to find out how good Alabama is. But Alabama did not look like the team they have been the last 3 years. That was one of my takeaways. Alabama wasn't as deep on the defensive line as they had been. Look, they still may be good enough to be in the college football playoff because they've been either 1 or 2 for the past 5 years. Maybe they're 3 or 4 now. But I don't think Alabama was quite there. And LSU is still sort of growing up. And playing with that team, they clearly thought it was a moral victory. There's no doubt about it.
Danny Etling obviously is getting a lot of the brunt of what happened on Saturday night. Miles Brennan gets a chance to play. Guys, I'd like to. I don't think that Brennan should start the next 3 games, but I surely think that we can go back to the future a little bit with what other LSU coaches have done in terms of maybe every 3rd or 4th series, get him in the game and let him play. We've seen some great quarterbacks at LSU sit the bench for a series and allow the backup to come in. I think this is the time to do that.
I did a story this week that said almost that exact same thing, that what I think they need to do, and I'll tell you why. One, you got to play to win. And if Etling's the guy who gives you the most chance to win, yes, he needs the majority of the snaps. But you've got to show what Miles Brennan can do. LSU's had whole games this year where wide receivers don't catch a ball. They're out there trying to get Lawrence Keys at McDonough 35 to come to Baton Rouge. They're trying to flip Devontae Jason at Landry Walker. You're trying to get kids to buy into the future. Everyone says how Brennan can fling it. I think it's in LSU's best interest to put this kid in the game and let him fling it, because the best way to show Devontae Jason that he needs to go to Baton Rouge is to say, look, kid, you can play with this kid who can get it downfield to you. Etling hasn't been able to do that the way you'd like an SEC quarterback to. If Brennan is your guy, I agree with you. You're not playing him the whole game. He doesn't have to start. But I need him in significant snaps showing he can fling it, because you've got to close that recruiting gap and you need to be a downfield team at least somewhat.
Right. Ro?
I can think of at least 2 high school teams in this area that might have better receivers than LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I really can. Yeah.
Okay. And look, Devontae Jason would be starting right now on that
I can
team.
think of at least 2 that have. Yeah.
Well, they've lost a lot of good receivers. I'm watching Tyron Johnson the other day with Oklahoma State.
No doubt.
Was it Quinn now playing at SMU?
Right.
They got quite a few players that were on this roster now, wide receiver, that are playing elsewhere.
John Diar's too. Yeah, no, they've got a bunch.
But I think LSU may have some opportunities to put Brennan in.
Right.
And do that.
But I think you need to make those opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I think they will have some opportunities with some of the.
You should beat Arkansas pretty good.
Yeah.
But I agree with Eric. I'd like to see him in the first quarter and let him fling it. Show kids that this can be a fun, you got to win, but show kids this can be a fun downfield offense.
Well, and also prove to yourself that he can play.
Right, yeah.
Because
sure.
Again,
they believe that already.
Right. Yeah. Right. Ro, do you agree with that? That he should see some time?
Yeah, Yeah, I think he should. Especially a recruit like that who's a big-time recruit, and you know that Etling's going to be gone, and they need somebody who's going to be, this is our quarterback, for the future.
And if you can run the ball and have a kid who can fling it, look, LSU hasn't been able to effectively go down. Etling's done it a little bit, but you haven't been able to effectively, consistently fling the ball downfield. Imagine this offense with Shea Patterson quarterbacking it. I mean, you need that. And if you're Devontae Jason, let's say, and you're that kind of kid, do you want to go play with Shea Patterson or Jalen Hurts or Danny Etling? Now, if you can show a kid at those levels, at that level, and if Brennan's there, he's the linchpin to getting offensive kids to come to Baton Rouge, I think.
Guys, everybody thinks Geis when they run the football, but man, Williams has played so well this year.
Darryl, yeah.
I mean, he slimmed down. You look what he did in the Wildcat against Alabama, but he's done this consistently almost every single game. I mean, NFL scouts have got to be looking hard at him as well.
He was a guy who committed to Arizona State, as I remember, when he was in era. He committed to Arizona State. And then LSU thought that they might not get Leonard Fournette or something like that, and so they kind of went back hard on him. He decided to come to LSU. But I agree. He has lost weight, as you said. He kind of reminds me of Robert Kelly at Tulane.
With Tulane, with the Skins now.
Yeah. Right. He kind of reminds me of him, and I could see him. He's going to make some NFL roster.
Oh, no doubt.
That's
no
what I mean.
doubt.
Nobody thought about Robert Kelly making an NFL roster, and he did. Here he is.
Look at Alfred Blue.
Years later.
Yeah. Alfred Blue never started at LSU.
Exactly.
And he's on his, 5th year in Houston?
Exactly.
Oh, and I don't think there's any doubt Darryl Williams plays in the NFL. Yeah. I think he's made for the NFL.
Yep.
Guys, what were your thoughts about the game plan Aranda Canada had against Alabama?
Well, I think that it looked like offensively for a while I wasn't sure what they wanted to do.
Yeah, they ran a lot of jet sweeps.
I was trying to figure it out. I wasn't sure what.
And I wondered if the jet sweeps would work because of the Alabama's ability to get to the edge.
They were going to do. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. Defensively, I mean, I just think that Arden Key seems to be getting back into shape. Into being the player that he was.
Came in, played well.
Aaron came in and played well. The whole thing with the LSU defense to me is that I think people need to realize that in the defensive front, this isn't like what they've had the last several years. We're not talking about a line that has, Michael Brocker.
Michael Brocker's as your fourth best guy.
And he's coming off the bench. That's not what's there now. Just because they're at LSU, it doesn't mean they're defensive linemen, and just because they're defensive backs at LSU, does not mean that they're that caliber. It doesn't mean everybody's Patrick Peterson or everything. And people think that they are because they're there. They're good players. They're better than most. I'd have them on my team if I had a college team. But, you got to temper it a little bit. And I don't think that the people they have defensively are like those people that you had, Eric Reed or whatever. No, I don't think you have that now.
I thought the defensive game plan was terrific. I thought Aranda did everything he could with what he had to work with, because I agree with Bro. Other than Rashard Lawrence, and Key is not a defensive lineman. He's an edge rusher.
Yes, right.
So they have really one really quality defensive lineman, a couple of good guys that can play, but they're so thin. They don't have the ability to rotate guys in and out, and that was going to give them trouble.
Like Alabama has the last few years.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they stacked the box. They stopped the run. Alabama was 7th in the nation in rushing coming in. LSU outgained them on the ground. Alabama had 115 yards rushing, which is not a great game, not by any stretch running the ball. LSU did as good a job as they could with what they had. I thought Aranda had a really nice game plan. The one thing he couldn't game plan for was Jalen Hurts. You can't stop this kid. The one thing about Jalen Hurts, if you stand next, this kid is huge. This kid is thick. He is not Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, because he's not tall, people think he's not
No,
big,
he's huge. And LSU, there were a couple of plays where LSU had free shots at him, and Hurts, because he's Hurts, made the difference. Second year in a row, he single-handedly was the difference. And I'll say this, talk about LSU getting better. I hate to say, on the flip side of that, Jalen Hurts right now as a passer, and I thought he did a better job, way better job this year as a passer. He might be up to a 5 as a passer. As a runner, he's at least a 9.
He still has people bouncing off.
He has to be right. If he gets better as a passer, and I think he will, because he made big strides from freshman to sophomore. If he gets better as a passer, this kid could be genuinely terrifying by next year. And he was the difference in the game on offense.
He's already terrifying.
But if he could throw it the way I think he's on the other side, I think Matt Canada has been limited all year, and I don't want to rag on Danny Etling, but Danny Etling is an extremely limited quarterback. There was one where they ran a quarterback draw on a 3rd down, and Etling looked so uncomfortable and didn't even get to the line of scrimmage. I think you got to have a quarterback who can be special doing something. For now, Hurts is special running. If Brennan can be special flinging it, or Lowell Narcisse can be special running it, if you can be special doing something, then you can build around that. And Matt Canada has been handicapped by having a quarterback who's not special at anything.
I think we're getting away from, I think the Southeastern Conference had a long time where everybody seemed to want a manager. They didn't want a quarterback who made plays. Now, you'd have some freaks of nature come in and they'd win the conference and the national title, like Tebow and Newton and those kind of people. And the Florida people during the Spurrier days, the quarterbacks made the difference and that sort of thing. But basically, you went through a period where everybody thought they needed, a Jay Barker.
A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, A.J. McCarron and that. And I think they're moving away from that. Where the quarterbacks, because I've always said that, for about a decade, the Southeastern Conference was a terrible quarterback league.
Yeah, and it showed it the pros.
A terrible quarterback league.
No doubt. Yeah. Guys, 3 games left within the conference. Ro, how do you think they do?
Well, I think they're going to win 10.
I do too.
I think they're going to win these last 3, and I think they're going to win them both.
I do too.
I do. I really do. I think they will.
I think they're going to run the table.
I didn't before, but I think they will.
I think they're going to run the table. I like what Ed Ogeron started. I know he took flack after Troy, and he should. I mean, that's not
What changed, guys, after Troy? What changed?
What do you What do you think?
Certainly, a lot of it's just growing up. Right. I mean, a lot of it is coming in.
They got embarrassed. That was an embarrassing loss.
Yeah. The way they turned it around has been really impressive.
Ohio for Arnsparger, and UAB.
And it was UAB for
Saban.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like they all have had one of those.
Yeah. And, I mean, it was a clunker like few clunkers.
They came out the woodwork on Ogeron when it happened.
No doubt.
Okay, they were waiting. They were lying in wait on
No
him.
doubt. And it's going to happen. Obviously, just like I said with Willie Fritz, I think this recruiting class is critical for him, because if you look 4 years down the line, LSU people aren't going to give him much more than that. So the class coming in, given a year to develop. I do like what they're building for the future. I like it on the offensive line. I think you will have to find a star running back. I'm not sure it's on the roster now because you lose Williams, and Geis is certainly going to go pro. I think you need to find running back and receivers, but I think those are guys who can be plug and play.
Right. If you have a lot of them in the state.
And you got a lot of them in the state. And so the offensive line is one thing you can't step in and play. Although they've done it this year, generally you can't. And I think the offensive line will get better. They got to recruit big guys. Tyler Shelvin was the best big man in Louisiana with grades. He's missing the whole season. You get him next year. That's a good start. I see a lot of positive signs, but I definitely think they run the table because I think they've got that kind of momentum going right now.
Guys, Pelicans now 6-5. What a difference a week makes. Last week I'm on this show and I'm talking about how flawed a roster it was, and I still think the roster is flawed. But I mean, again, you look at what they've been able to do over the last 3 games. They won their last 3 straight. They won 4 straight on the road. They're 4-2 on the road this season. They got Toronto tonight. Guys, are you buying into the turnaround, or is it a game-by-game deal with the Pelicans?
I'm not buying in yet. I'm sorry.
Well, history will tell you that it's probably not smart.
And look, it is the only reason why. I mean, a tip of the hat to what they've done, okay? I mean, they've really done a lot better than I thought they would at this point, being 6-5. I just don't think everybody's going to be healthy. I just always feel like the Pelicans are piecing together a team. It always seems like they're putting together, like they're, using paste and something, I mean, that's how I feel. It's, they signed this person, and the injuries have a lot to do with it. I mean, you got to give them that. I love watching their 2 best players. My only problem with, and this will sound funny, this will sound strange, I love watching Boogie Cousins, but he always looks like he's playing by himself. If that makes sense. I don't know, that probably sounds strange. I like watching him. I really do. But it looks like he gets the ball and that's it. He's going to have the ball. You don't get that feeling with Anthony Davis, to me at least. I don't. I don't get that feeling. I feel like it's, it's within something. But hey, the 2 guys, they're putting up their points and they're getting their rebounds, and if they can get something from some other people, who knows?
Right.
They are 4th and 6th in the NBA in scoring right now, the 2 of them. It's amazing. Yeah. And look, I thought the second half against Indiana Tuesday night was I drew more optimism from that half of basketball than at any point since Alvin Gentry got here. And here's the thing. Everybody says somebody else needs to contribute. I don't agree with that. I think the other parts need to be parts. And that's what happened in the second half against Indiana. They don't need Drew Holiday to score 20 because Cousins and Davis are going to score. They scored 69 points against Indiana combined. They need those guys to play defense and facilitate and not have bad turnovers and to get the ball to them in positions where they can score. And Holiday did that. He only had 12 points against Indiana.
Play good defense, though.
But to me,
he played great defense.
Yeah.
And if they can play defense, occasionally hit a 3. They had Holiday with 10 and Holiday with 12. 2 guys scored 10. To me, that's all you need out of scoring. You got to play defense. You got to play defense on the perimeter, and you got to be able to get them the ball. And it seemed like Holiday and Etuan Moore did a better job of finding Davis and Cousins, and I think Cousins needs to not live at the 3-point line. When he is on the block, there is no human, there's no human on the planet who can play with him on the block. There's not a human. If there's a human, he doesn't exist right now.
But that's what I mean by the other people have to do something. I'm not talking about scoring 25 points.
Okay, yeah.
That's not what I mean.
But they got to contribute.
No, they got to contribute.
Yeah, they got to contribute. And like you said, defensively, they held these people to 37 points in the second half.
They did a great job in the second half on the perimeter, too. too. They played the perimeter, let the big guys play inside. I like Cousins out front because one of my single most fun things to watch is when he starts dribbling towards the basket, because there's no way you're going to stop him. And he runs through people. It's Earl Campbell at his best. I mean, he is a monster going towards the rim. He's fun to watch. You need to post him up enough. Let him play inside out. But I saw enough against Indiana where I think maybe they can. I just want this team to be competitive. I want them to be relevant. Right. I want to care in March.
Right.
That's what I want.
Right. And that's the thing that scares me about the two bigs getting so many minutes now, having to do everything. You know, you get into March and April, are they going to be healthy? You know, they need some contribution. You know, Darius Miller now has started to come on a little bit. Well, you know, you saw.
He had 10.
Right. You saw Tony Allen doing the dirty work, which you really need.
What you need. Okay. And that's what Rondo does when he comes back.
And then you're hoping that Rondo is going to be that guy.
All you need Rondo to do is play defense.
Right.
And pass the ball to the two big guys.
Because they've had problems getting the ball into the bigs.
No doubt.
Okay?
And that's what they did. That's what they did Tuesday night against Indiana at a rate I haven't seen them do.
And Rondo can do that.
No, he definitely can.
And Boogie Cousins needs to give up the ball, you know, run. Yeah.
On occasion.
Yeah.
On occasion.
I mean, we don't need you to dribble. We know you can handle the ball.
When they look for the extra pass, they are almost unstoppable.
No doubt.
And I'm talking about bringing the ball up court.
Right.
He gets a rebound. He seems to feel like he has.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's obviously
take your rest, go down there, get your position,
right,
and then drive past the people.
It's different than any Twin Towers we've ever seen.
No doubt.
But I love watching both of them.
And I love the idea that you're going to try to win different.
Yeah,
you know
too.
what? And don't try to play Golden State ball with the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Invent
your brand.
Force the teams to adjust to you.
Alvin Gentry is going to bring the Golden State Warriors style here. The Alvin Gentry, you know, you're bringing Steph Curry, you're bringing
that style works for them because they have guys that fit that style. Don't play their game.
Yeah.
No, I would agree, guys. We said a lot of people said, myself included, you end up 12-12. I'm sorry, 6-6 after 12. You're in pretty good shape. They're in position to do that now.
Oh, no doubt. They lose to Toronto, they're 6-6.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, you know, I mean, the schedule is the schedule at this point, but you got to like what you've seen, especially after the way they started off.
Well, look at it this way. In previous years, they've had those 1-11s.
Yeah, they were 0-11 2 years ago. 0-11 2 years ago, 0-9 last year.
You know, You know, so it's a big difference.
Guys, do you expect them to make any changes going forward to try to add some pieces? They tried to make a move to get Reggie Jackson in here about a week or so ago. That didn't work out. You anticipate that?
I don't yet. I think they're going to wait for Rondo to come back. I think they would love, supposedly Rondo's out about 20 games, right? Maybe 18, maybe 20, around 20 games. I think if they thought they could be 500 when they get Rondo back, they'd be elated with that. They think Rondo can be a difference maker, and we'll see. But the only way, if they lose somebody, then I think they get desperate. And I think if Rondo doesn't make a difference, but I think for now they're in a, let's see what we can do now. Let's learn how to play with this group. Let's get Rondo, maybe by the 30 or 40 game mark, maybe. But you got to see where you are.
Right.
Health.
There you go.
Anthony Davis's health.
And we'll leave it with that. Ro Brown, Doug Mouton, thanks for being with us on the panel tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Network at 9 p.m. on Friday night. You can catch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com. And, of course, you can catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO. That's 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. weekdays. Also, the TuneIn Radio app is a great way to take the show with you anywhere. You can also listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. Special thanks to Doug Mouton and Ro Brown. Also to the WLAE production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juneau, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisby's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 304-4125 or brisbysrestaurant.com.